Disabilities in physical education. So characteristics of learning disabilities: they have short attention span, poor memory, difficult following directions, inability to discriminate between among letters, numerals, or sounds, poor reading, also known as dyslexia, eye-hand coordination problems, which is a big factor in physical education, and there are many other characteristics. Integrating students into physical education. Class must be structured. This just means it's not going to be like recess where you roll out the ball and just let them play. Equipment must be developed appropriate for students' age. This goes with if I have a student that can't shoot a basketball at a 10-foot rim, I'll lower the rim so they can work on their skills, provide for students to perform skill at lower rate and under control. So if my class is playing baseball and a student can't hit the ball out of the air, I'm going to get a tee out for them so they can hit the ball and play along with the other students. Characteristics of communication, speech impairment. Three characteristics of speech or language impairments will vary depending upon the type of impairment involved. Three main types are articulation, fluency, and voice. Articulation, there's three subcategories, which is omissions, which is bow for boat, substitution, wabbit for rabbit, and distortion, schlip for sip. And then the two other ones are fluency, which is your stuttering, voice, quality, pitch, loudness, and duration. Integrating students into physical education. Speech doesn't always affect motor skills unless there's another impairment shown. But one thing that I could do is just make sure that the instructions are clear for that student. Characteristics of emotional disorder, behavior disorder. An inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. An inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationship with peers and teachers. A general persuasive mood of unhappiness or depression. A tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personnel or school problems. Integrating students with ED or behavioral disorder in physical education. One thing I can do is just let them know that I'm there for them. Uh, this just means like be a friend to them, but also be a teacher. Let them know that you're there to help when they're feeling down. Differentiated instruction. This is just letting them experience different ways of learning the content. Excuse me. And praise. I'm a big believer in praise. I really think if a kid does a good job, they need to know it. I'll be the first one to get on to them if they do something wrong, but I'll also be the first one to let them know that they did something uh, great. In conflict and resolution, I think this would be good in my classroom to understand that if there's a conflict between two students, to pull them aside and find a resolution that is safe for everyone. Characteristics of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. Children with ADHD may be inattentive, hyperactive, and impulsive. And these mean inattentive is trouble staying focused, not organized, following instructions. Hyperactivity is fidgets or sitting still, talks excessively, may have a quick temper. Impulsive acts without thinking, guesses, or interrupts others. Integrating students with ADHD in physical education. A lot of the same strategies are used for ADHD as for learning disabilities. Same routine. This goes along with that I need to have the same routine when the kids come out of the locker room or come from their homeroom, that they need to go to the same spot and do the same thing every single day. That really helps kids out with ADHD. And then what are the students' needs and strength to present level of performance? So as a teacher, I need to know each kid's strengths and their weaknesses to understand what they can do better. And then positive feedback. I'm a big believer in positive feedback. A simple high five goes a long way with many students. Characteristics of intellectual disabilities, social and emotional characteristics, difficulty generalizing information, more often do not fully comprehend what is expected of them, so respond inappropriately. Physical and motor characteristics. The greater the intellectual deficit, the greater the lag in development or motor skills. 4+ years behind peers on physical and motor tests. Integrating students with ID in physical education. So learning needs to be fun and ensure success and keep students active. Lecturing does not go good for these students, so I need to have them be part of the instructions or just keep them moving while I'm giving instructions. Just keep it mixed up, keep it fun for them to ensure success. Provide more time to learn new skills, perform skills. So if I have a kid that has IDs, I'm going to have them work on their skill more than the other skills without them knowing. It goes back to slowing the games down, slowing skills down so they can perform skills better. Teaching methods to match students' cognitive development, multi-sensory experience. So I'll use short cues and correct modeling and demonstration. Uh, long instructions tend to get these kids, off into space where short 1-2 word cues will keep them into what I'm saying. Ecological task analysis, breaking down skills into sequential tasks. So this just goes with if I have a kid with ID, I'm going to take him, and if we're shooting a hockey goal, if he cannot like run and slap the puck into the goal at the same time, we're going to break it down to where he will just stand there and slap the puck and then maybe take a step and slap it and then put it all together. That is the ecological task analysis. And then activity modifications. So I'll just change activities to where a student with ID can perform the same as the rest of the class. And there's many other ways that can go with students' cognitive development to make them match their motor skills. Characteristics of autism. Behavioral, inappropriate social interaction, poor eye contact, compulsive behavior, repetitive movement or persistent repetition of words and actions, development, learning disability or speech delay, cognitive, intense interest in a limited number of things or problem paying attention, psychological, unaware of others' emotions or depression. So integrating students with autism in a physical education. So it always starts for me with an assessment. So consider the learning and the task and the environment. So understand those things. And then when selecting an activity, consider the need and the interest of the learner. So you want to pick something that, or I want to pick something that a student with autism really enjoys. So they'll be more successful and want to try more. Instructional and management techniques, clear and consistent cues, short and to the point. Picture communication board supports the visual learning style. I'm a big visual learner. If I have a student with autism that is better with visual learning, a board does great things for them. Routine and structured. Goes back to what I said with ADHD. They need to be doing the same thing day in and day out to better their success. And then correction, procedure rule, take child back to last correct response and repeat incorrect response. This is a great tool that I will use for any student. If any student does anything wrong Or if I tell them, don't run over that, and they do, we can always take them back, show them the right way, and then they do it and they're on. So, characteristics of visual impairment: difficulty in understanding complex abstract concepts, motor skill and mobility are limited, the lack of visual stimulation, and there's some others. They cannot effectively interact with their family members, children of their age, or people in their surrounding. So, integrating students with visual impairments in physical education would obviously be equipment modification. Not all visual impairments mean that a student is blind. So, if they're colorblind, you could change a ball so they can see it better. Team teaching: have a student with them, paraeducator, or a special adapted physical education specialist. And then rule modification, environmental modifications, all those just so they can better play with the rest of the class and succeed. Gifted students: they're rapid learners, excellent memory, enjoys problem solving, especially with numbers and puzzles, and then learn basic skills quickly. So, integrating students that are gifted in physical education, choosing activities for gifted students. What are their physical abilities? What are their social abilities? What are their emotional abilities? Individual versus individual, team versus team. Setting: are they high competition? Everyone succeed? All these are factors that go into picking an activity for gifted students because they're not always the most social or the most physical. Traumatic brain injury. Physical impairments include lack of coordination, planning, and sequencing movement. Cognitive impairments, short or long-term memory loss, poor concentration. Social and emotional impairments include mood swings, lack of motivation, depression. So, integrating TBI students into physical education. Understand their motor skills when selecting activities. Give clear instructions, short cues. That's a big thing. And then the same routine again and differentiate instruction. So make sure that each student knows exactly what's going on, even if you have to change your ways of teaching. Characteristics of hearing impairment, behavioral and affective characteristics, possible lack of understanding, frustration, behavior problems, perhaps lack of understanding. And then some motor characteristics are sensorineural loss, might have balance problems. Fitness levels are equal to those of hearing peers. So, integrating students with hearing impairment in physical education, discover what the student can hear. So, if I talk loudly, if they can hear me, that's great. If they can't hear me at all, that's something that we need to work on. Understand level of performance. So understand their motor skills and what they can do. Understand the role of the interpreter. Sometimes interpreters can be in the way, but understand that they're there to help the kid, or they might not be. They might just be a way out for that student to not participate. Promote leadership for other students without disabilities. This goes along with just having the rest of the class be leaders for that student that has a hearing impairment. Show him the way or try to get him to understand what they're saying. And then just learn sign language. I think learning sign language for me would be great if I have a student with a hearing impairment because it just makes it so much easier for me to talk to that, and then the interpreter wouldn't have to be there. I could talk to them for them, and then teach sign language to hearing impaired. This would be a great thing for me to do because it doesn't have to be the full sign language, but if we could get a couple words here or there to talk to this kid and make connections between the kid with the hearing impairment and with the students without, would be a great thing for physical education to bring class together.